This program is about unsolved mysteries. Whenever possible, the actual family members and police officials have participated in recreating the events. What you are about to see is not a news broadcast.
When Annette Schophocker was a lonely teenager, she fell in love with a man twice her age. It was a storybook romance which ended in a flash of violence. Now the man of Annette's dreams is wanted for murder. In 1964, 18-year-old Delia Fasani of London, England, found herself trapped in a nightmare. As a pregnant, unwed teenager, abandoned by her boyfriend, she had no one to turn to. Delia's domineering father banished her to a convent outside London and later forced Delia to give her baby girl up for adoption. As a 7-year-old, Jeff Fisher became one of the thousands of young boys whose lives have been enriched by Big Brothers of America. Today, Jeff is searching for the man who gave him companionship and understanding. And 3 weeks ago, we profiled a young man suffering from a baffling case of amnesia. Our broadcast led to a dramatic reunion with his mother, but at the same time placed him under a cloud of suspicion. Join me for this fascinating edition of Unsolved Mysteries. For most of us, life turns on a series of small triumphs and small tragedies. The story you're about to see deals with a young British girl, a girl who was forced to give up her baby against her will. The child was adopted by American parents and is now 27 years old. Perhaps tonight, she'll be able to understand the agony her birth mother went through. On a chilly spring evening in 1964, Delia Fasani sat in her favorite London pub waiting for her boyfriend. Even though Delia was only 18, her life was at a crossroads. She was 3 months pregnant and felt that her boyfriend was the only person she could turn to.
Hello, love. You look great. Been waiting long?
Oh, not long, 10 minutes. I've got something important I need to talk about.
It's quiet tonight.
Yeah, well, I need to talk to you. It's important. I can't even bring myself to say it. I'm pregnant.
You're kidding me. You're sure?
It's been 3 months.
Have you had any tests or something?
I don't need any tests, I know. I haven't told anyone.
It's not mine.
What do you mean?
I won't have it. It's definitely not mine.
But it's yours. What do you think? I need your help.
I don't want anything to do with it. If you say it's mine, I'll just say all my friends told me they've been with you. You won't have a leg to stand on.
That's it?
Yes.
I was devastated. I mean, I wanted to marry him. I mean, I loved him. But he just didn't want the responsibility of it. That was just the way they did things then. They just left the responsibility with the girl. After that, the first fear, obviously, was to tell my dad that I was pregnant. I mean, I thought, well, I'm either going to tell him and he's going to kill me on the spot, or I don't know what's going to happen.
Delia's father, an Italian immigrant, ran a highly successful restaurant in London. He was a strict Roman Catholic who ruled his business and his family with an iron hand.
He was the sort of man that was always on a short fuse. Everybody was frightened of him, and I was absolutely petrified to tell him.
For 7 agonizing months, Delia hid her pregnancy with corsets and loose clothes. Finally, when she could hide it no longer, she begged a friend to break the news to her parents.
You shouldn't talk to her when you're so angry.
I can't believe she's done this.
Wait till you calm down.
Slut! You are so common. You disgust me. Who was it?
I'm not going to tell you. You can do what you like, but I'm not going to tell you.
You've done the worst thing possible. Now, you'll tell no one. And you'll have nothing to say about this. I'll take care of this problem.
Can't we keep the baby? We could raise it like it was our own son or daughter, just like it was one of our own.
I'd rather jump off a bridge than take care of this baby. I don't even want to smell it.
Nothing really after that day was discussed with me, but obviously my dad was discussing it with my mum as regards to what to do with me. And then I think it was only a matter of about maybe a week, couple of weeks, and he just came home and announced that I was going to this place, wherever it was.
We will tell our friends that you are going up north to the country for a few months to spend some time with your friend Iris. Say goodbye to your mother.
I didn't want this.
I know, Mum.
I wanted to keep my baby. You know, even though he was sending me off to this wherever, I thought, well, maybe once I have the baby, he's gonna feel different.
Delia's father banished her to the Loretto Convent, 30 miles north of London. The convent served as a home for unwed mothers and facilitated adoptions as well.
When we drove up to the convent, I just felt that I couldn't believe that he'd just put me there.
We've been expecting you, Delia. We're glad to have you with us.
You know, you cringe at taking your dog to the pound because you don't want to leave him there. And yet he just easily just took me there and left me. And that was my father.
This way.
In my eyes, it was like a prison, really. You were there for a certain time, and you couldn't go home until that time had been completed.
All the expectant mothers were assigned chores. Those closest to term were given the most strenuous work because the nuns believed it helped the girls deliver on time.
After you've raked them into a pile, girls, put them in the barrow over there.
I suppose they see it as they're doing the job, and you're there for a certain purpose. That is to have your baby, and then goodbye, and then the next one comes in.
On November 2nd, 1964, Delia gave birth to a daughter and named her Michelle.
You're such a good girl.
Delia was allowed to see the baby only 4 times a day, and then for only half an hour.
They didn't like you to see a baby other than the feeding times and the changing times, because the more you saw the baby, the more you held it, you were more likely to bond to the baby. So when it came for adoption, you could just hand it over, so they thought, as though nothing had happened. But you do make that bond, even though you're only seeing them for certain times. You've still given birth to her, so the bond is there automatically.
When Michelle was 4 weeks old, Delia's parents visited the convent. It was a moment Delia had been waiting for.
I was just hoping that my father was going to say, well, you know, OK, you know, you come back home and you bring your baby up and that's fine. That's what I wanted.
Hold her.
I know my dad was yearning to take a peek, but didn't want anyone to see him doing it.
She's beautiful.
And I thought, well, at least he's looking. I watched thinking that the next move was going to be he was going to pick her up. I knew as soon as he walked away from the pram that that was it. There's no way that I'm going to change his mind.
Have a seat, Delia. It's been 6 weeks since Michelle was born.
Yes, sister.
We found a couple for her. I can't tell you anything about them except that they have your coloring. And they're American. He's in the Air Force, a pilot stationed at Northampton. You'll need to sign some papers for Michelle to be taken out of the country. That won't be a problem, will it?
No, sister.
This is our waiting room. You can sit here.
2 weeks later, at the Westminster offices of the Catholic Children's Society, Delia was allowed a final visit with Michelle.
You'll have a nice long time to say your goodbyes. Such a beautiful baby. You've been very brave, Delia.
When Delia was alone, she slipped a note into Michelle's blanket.
Don't you let them see this, all right?
The note begged the adoptive parents to tell Michelle that Delia had loved her and had given her up unwillingly.
You've only got 30 minutes or whatever it is to say goodbye. So what you try to do is try to look at her face, to burn the impression into your mind. Because you there and then you get that feeling that I'm going to forget the face, and that's the last thing you want. So you feel the shawl, and well, maybe because it's wool, but you're feeling her body because that was the last time you're going to see her.
I'm sorry, Delia. It's time.
She came over and she took her. And she took her out of the room and locked the door behind her. And that was it. That was the last time I saw her. I can't explain it. One minute I had a baby, next minute it was gone.
Delia and her parents never spoke of the adoption again. Delia eventually married twice, but had no other children. In 1977, her father died, and she began to search for Michelle. But Delia's mother, Rosalinda, honored her late husband's wish that the details of the adoption be kept secret. Then in 1991, Rosalinda was hospitalized with a terminal illness. A family friend, Sonia Filkins, urged Rosalinda to tell Delia everything she knew about Michelle and the adoption.
Why don't you tell Dee what we talked about, Rosa?
What?
The people who got Michelle. The name of the people you want is Walters.
Walters?
I'll never forget that name. Please, try to find her.
I'll find her, Mom.
Let me see her picture.
My darling Michelle.
Put her on the... People come to see me. They ask me who that is. I will tell them it's my granddaughter, Michelle. Oh, dear.
2 weeks later, Rosalinda Fasani died, having at last given Delia the precious gift of Michelle's adoptive name.
I can honestly say that not one day has passed, not one solitary day, where I haven't thought about her or thought what she might be doing. She's there all the time. You just can't rest, you can't leave it alone. I've got to find her.
2 photographs were all that Delia had to remember Michelle, and she never stopped trying to locate her. Finally, after 15 years of frustrated research, Delia's efforts began to pay off.
Last July, Delia learned that her daughter had been renamed Laura. An adoptions official agreed to send a letter to Laura that Delia had written. In the brief note, Delia said that she would soon appear in Unsolved Mysteries and asked her daughter to view the broadcast.
1964. Delia Fasani sat in her... In New York Mills, New York, on the evening our program was aired, Delia's daughter, Laura Franklin, experienced firsthand the heartbreaking events leading up to her adoption.
But he just didn't want the responsibility of it. So that was just the way they did things then. They just left the responsibility with the girl.
When I found out my birth mother was searching for me, that was pretty touching to know that she had looked that far to try to find me.
If you have any information, please call our toll-free number, 1-800-876-53. After the broadcast, Laura contacted our telecenter and asked to be put in touch with her birth mother. Against nearly impossible odds, Delia had at last found her daughter, a continent away amidst a population of millions. On September 19, 1992, Laura, her husband, their 2 children, and Laura's closest friends assembled at Syracuse International Airport. The separation of birth mother and daughter that had lasted more than a quarter of a century was about to end.
There was a lot of anticipation, a lot of what's she going to think when she sees me, and what is she going through right now?
She was everything and more that I'd expected. Absolutely everything. She's a beautiful girl. Proud of her.
Before Laura's adoptive mother died in 1989, she had shared all she knew of Laura's background. Delia and Laura could now fill in the remaining gaps in nearly 30 years of family history.
Finding my birth mother now, I don't think it's really changed my life as much as it has probably enhanced it, because now I can find out some about my past and my history and things that I never thought that I would ever find out about.
I can't replace her mother, but I'd like to think that I could be pretty close.
The September reunion is only a beginning. At Christmas, Laura and her family plan to travel to England, where they will spend time with Delia and the many relatives looking forward to meeting them for the first time. Next, a baffling case of amnesia is solved, thanks to our viewers.
have any pain anywhere. Can you wiggle your toes for me?
On January 28, 1991, a young man was rushed to a hospital in Nevada. He had been found dehydrated and disoriented in the desert outside Las Vegas. He carried no identification and was suffering from complete and total amnesia. The hospital staff named him Tyler. All efforts to jog Tyler's memory failed. Authorities found no one reported missing who matched his description. His fingerprints were not found on file with the FBI, the CIA, or the Department of Defense. For more than 8 months, Tyler remained a man without a past and possibly without a future.
I'm really kind of at a difficult point in my life right now. I can't do anything, really. I'm almost like an illegal alien here. I have no identification of any form now. I can't go to work because I'm not eligible for a Social Security number. I can't drive a car because I don't have a Social Security number or a date of birth. And I'm starting to feel more frustrated as the days go by because I really feel this needs to come to an end. I do need to find out who I am.
A county psychiatrist diagnosed Tyler as a genuine victim of amnesia. Last month, this case took on added urgency when the state funding which provided his job and apartment was abruptly cut off. Then on the night of our broadcast, Tyler's search for his identity came to a poignant but unsettling conclusion. Within minutes, Tyler was reunited with his mother by phone. But as more details emerged, some began to believe that Tyler may not have lost his memory at all. That evening, Tyler gathered with friends to watch the show. Before his segment even aired in Las Vegas, a man from Boise, Idaho called our telecenter and identified Tyler as his son. Unsolved Mysteries immediately contacted Tyler.
Yes, Dave.
Sorry it took so long, but everything that I was looking to cross-referenced, and we have located your family for you.
You have?
Yes. I have located your dad and your mother and your wife, who you've been separated from since February of 1990. And they've informed me that you also have 2 children. And your wife lives in Iowa, your mother lives in Iowa, and your dad lives in Idaho, okay? So I want to give
Tyler learned that his real name is Arthur Paul Beal, but he goes by Paul. He is 23 years old, and before he was stricken with amnesia, he lived in Boise, Idaho. A few minutes later, a nervous Paul Beal called the mother and stepfather he could not remember.
Hello?
May I speak with Mrs. Beal?
This is Mrs. Beal.
This is your son.
How are you? You sound great. I've waited so long to hear you talk. I miss you.
I'm scared.
I bet you are.
I don't remember you.
Huh?
I don't remember you.
I'll help you, Paul.
The emotional phone call lasted nearly 20 minutes.
You be strong, okay? And I'll talk to you real soon.
Okay.
Okay, honey.
Bye.
Bye.
A short time later, the case of Paul Beal, a.k.a. Tyler Doe, took a stunning and unexpected twist.
What's your date of birth?
I don't know.
You don't know what your date of birth is?
You don't know what your date of birth is? I don't. I have amnesia.
North Las Vegas police arrived and placed Paul under arrest for grand larceny. He was wanted by Boise police in connection with a stolen shipment of frozen food.
How long have you had amnesia?
9 months.
How do you remember that if you got amnesia?
Hi, I've come to get my son.
The next night, Paul's mother, Lynn Beal, arrived from Iowa to post bail for him. Their reunion was both emotional and awkward. Paul Beal still did not recognize his own mother.
I don't remember you.
You will. It's strange being with Paul and his not remembering anything about me, not knowing who I am. I want push everything into his head, make him remember everything. I want to make sure I can do things to help him. I'm scared. I don't want to do something to push it back farther. I want to reinforce happy thoughts, good memories.
I worried so much.
No, I just want him to know I love him. We all love him.
Nightmares.
And I'm relieved that he's safe, he's alive.
The reunion was tempered not only by Paul's amnesia, but by the criminal charge against him. In Boise, Paul was a salesman for a food supply company. On January 5, 1991, he left for Las Vegas to sell a shipment of frozen food. He never returned to Boise. On January 25th, Paul surfaced with the empty truck in Boulder City, Nevada, where he was questioned but not arrested by local police.
At that particular time, my impression of Mr. Beale was that he was very intelligent, very well-versed, very possibly well-educated, very clean-cut, and extremely talkative.
It just wasn't Paul. That isn't something he would do. He's done silly, stupid things like anybody else has made mistakes, but nothing to the degree that this was, where he was actually breaking the law.
And I told him when he left, I says, Boise's going to get a warrant for you. You know, they're going to do it. It's going to be grand larceny, felony. So it's just a matter of time. You better get up there and go back up there. He said, yeah, I'm going back now. I'm going right back up there and take care of the situation. It'll be fine.
3 days after he was detained, Paul Beale, who came to be known as Tyler, was found wandering in the desert. Detective Bauman raises the obvious and disturbing question: is Paul Beale faking?
Amnesia is easy. I don't know. Who are you? I don't know. Where are you from? I don't know. Do you know anything? I don't know. It's easy. And for a guy like him, he's convincing.
Is this the four of you?
Uh-huh. On Thanksgiving. This still isn't my son in the fact that this isn't how he would react to me. We were very close. I could tell by his eyes when I first saw him tonight that he really didn't recognize me. He wanted to. I could see it in his face. He wanted to. If he was faking it, there was no way he could have faked that.
Am not and have not, throughout this entire ordeal, faked anything. This is probably the most horrifying nightmare that anybody could go through, losing an identity, losing every ounce and fiber of a person's life, having it pulled away. And then 9 months later, have it given back to you or have it presented to you, but you still don't have it. You know, I give anything in the world to remember right now.
When we return, a nightmare of love gone wrong and murder. When Annette Schappacher was 16, her family moved from Cincinnati, Ohio to Manatee County, Florida. Annette was on the shy side and had trouble adjusting to a new high school.
Annette discovered that it was very hard to fit in with the clique of friends. And she missed that terribly because she was so much a part of high school in Ohio. So she ended up dropping out of high school and got a job as a checkout girl at one of our local grocery stores.
Hey, Annette, can you come here a minute?
Here, Annette finally made a friend. The butcher, Jim Burnside, 28 years her senior.
No.
Somebody as pretty as you, and you don't have a boyfriend?
Thank you, no.
Well, listen, I was wanting to ask you, just a little restaurant down where I keep my boat, and I was wondering if you might join me for dinner tomorrow night.
At that time, she was only 17, and this man was almost as old as her dad.
Meet you about 8 o'clock tomorrow night?
We really hoped that she would meet somebody more her age, but she was so much in love with him that we finally agreed to meet him. but I didn't like him from the first time I met him. There was just something about him that I really don't know how to put into words. I just did not feel comfortable with him at all. But Annette was really very much in love with him.
In 1981, Annette Schapacher and Jim Burnside were married. The bride was just 18, the groom 46. It was a beginning of 6 years of torment for Annette. The sobering fact is that here in the United States, wife beating accounts for more significant injuries than rape, auto accidents, and muggings combined. Annette Burnside, like millions of women, endured the private terror of a home which was a living hell of physical and emotional abuse. Like so many others, Annette became trapped in a desperate charade, maintaining the facade of a happy marriage to cover up an escalating cycle of violence. Within a month of his marriage to Annette, Jim Burnside began to drink and to reveal a frightening side of himself that his young wife had never seen.
She became afraid of him almost immediately because he was jealous of her, and when he was drinking, he was violent and made remarks to her all the time that she would never ever leave him, that well, he started telling her right from the beginning that he would kill her if she ever tried to leave him.
Hello? Annette, where are you?
That's not important, okay? I just wanted to let you know I'm all right.
Just before her first wedding anniversary, Annette took refuge in a local shelter for battered women.
I can't.
Either come back now or I'll get even with you.
He told her over and over again, if he couldn't find her, she would suffer.
Kill your family.
She would absolutely suffer because he would kill her family. And Annette felt like she didn't have any choice.
All right.
And I told her, don't stay with him because of us. If he does anything to us, then I don't know. I just suppose that it's God's will that things happen the way they do. But don't live with him the way you have to live with him. I would rather be dead than to have you live a life like this.
Good thing you're here. I have something for you. Here, honey. Welcome home.
Against her parents' wishes, Annette went back to Jim. She acted out her happy homecoming with a sinking heart. Over the next few years, Annette and Jim had 2 daughters. For a while, it seemed that things were improving. Annette wanted to take a job as a receptionist at a local car dealership, and Jim said yes.
Jim had lost his job, and he agreed to let Annette work, which amazed everybody because he'd been so possessive and so jealous of her. We just never dreamt that he would let her get a job. And Annette was absolutely thrilled with this job. She was so happy, and she did so well. They all really liked Annette.
One of Annette's co-workers was a salesman whom we will call Dave.
Annette actually asked my advice and said, what would you think about an automobile? I want to buy a car. Kind of told me that she just wanted a little bit more freedom because he always dropped her off and picked her up, and so she really had very little freedom other than work. She took the car home, and not more than, gosh, I don't know, 3 days a week. He tried to wreck it.
Take care of her.
Mommy, what's the matter? Nothing's the matter. We're just gonna get you back to bed, okay? It's all right, we'll just get you back.
Now let's see you try and leave. Can't you get it through your head that you're not leaving me?
He said, if you ever try to leave me, I'll kill you. I will kill this whole family. And Stacy was only 5 years old at the time, and she looked up at him and she said, Daddy, you wouldn't kill me. And he looked her right in the face and said, yes, I would kill you. And it just upset Annette so bad. She would tell me, you know, the way she was being treated. And all mothers, You know, if your kid's happy, you're happy. And if they're sad, you're sad. And it was just tearing me up to see what she was going through.
The next day, with Jim at work, Annette called the police to escort her and her daughters to safety.
Mommy, what happened with the car? Just had a little accident last night, baby. Well, where are we going?
She said that she'd made up her mind that this is it. She's not going to stay with him another day. If he kills her, then he's going to have to kill her because she cannot live this way anymore.
By the time Jim came home, Annette would be on a plane to Ohio, taking her daughters to stay with relatives. 5 days later, she would secretly return to Florida and to her job.
He had no idea where she was, but in the meantime, Jim was calling us with these threats and telling us that this divorce was never going to be final. It would never see its final day.
Eventually, Jim discovered that Annette was back in town. He began to spy on her and was often spotted near the dealership.
Could not get any help from anybody, even the sheriff's department. When we went there, it was like, Jim has to do something. We just cannot arrest the man. He's got to do something before we can do anything with him.
Unless you have somebody guarding you 24 hours a day, the chances of somebody getting you to stalking you, they're going to get you. And that's what he did. He stalked her.
February 17th, 1988, 3 days before Annette was scheduled to appear in court for a divorce hearing. At noon, Annette met her co-worker Dave for lunch.
Hey. Hi, Dave.
How's it going?
Good.
Well, it's up to you.
She was smiling and happy, and all of a sudden her smile turned to almost horrible fear.
It's Jim.
When I got out of the automobile, because I knew that if I didn't do something, this could be the end for Annette. He looked at me like he was just about to enjoy a large steak. I watched the fire come out of the gun, and it was like slow motion. You could feel each one go in just like a hot poker.
By the time Dave regained consciousness, Annette was dead. Jim had stabbed her 15 times with a 10-inch butcher knife. An autopsy would reveal that Annette probably died before most of the wounds were inflicted. Amazingly, Jim Burnside had escaped on foot in broad daylight. After the murder, he purchased a bicycle and army camouflage fatigues at a sporting goods store. He then withdrew $500 from an automated teller machine and disappeared. Annette Burnside was laid to rest in a Manatee County cemetery. 2.5 years later, a stranger appeared at her grave. When a groundskeeper approached him, the man quickly turned and walked away without a word. The groundskeeper later identified the visitor as Jim Burnside.
What I'd like to see is James Burnside off the streets, not because of what he has done to me, mostly what he has done to his own children, his wife. This is why he has to be taken off the streets, because he's going to do it again. And, you know, the world will never get over Annette's death. And there's a person that had so much to give.
She knew in her heart she was not going to make it. I knew in my heart she was not going to make it. And I just hope and pray that somebody spots him. We never will feel safe until we know Jim has been caught. It's bad enough knowing that Annette had to die, but to know that he is still out there, it's horrible. We just want him caught. We want to be able to close it out and go on with our life.
Update. The night this story aired, 2 viewers contacted our telecenter to report that Jim Burnside was living in Shelby County, Alabama, under the assumed name Al Wilson.
When I saw his actual picture,
I just looked at my husband and I just started pointing and I'm going, tell me my eyes aren't deceiving me. That is Al. And he goes, yes, that's Al.
The first thing I thought is that, well, hey, let's call up the authorities and get this guy off the street.
Burnside was employed as a carpenter at the 280 flea market just outside of Chelsea, Alabama.
We had received a call from the FBI office in Birmingham stating that they felt pretty sure that James Burnside would be at this flea market on Highway 280 located in Shelby County.
The morning after our broadcast, FBI agents and sheriff's deputies checked out the flea market.
You got a fellow hanging around here by the name of Al Wilson?
Yeah, he's right there on the roof. And apparently Burnside saw them and went towards his truck.
FBI! Halt! FBI! Hold it!
The fugitive drew a .357 Magnum and pointed it at the officers.
Put the gun down! Put the gun down! Hands up! Get your hands up! Hang them up!
Burnside was struck by 2 bullets. He was placed under arrest and taken to a Birmingham hospital.
From what we've been able to determine, and again talking to his co-workers, he had made a statement on Thursday morning that he had anticipated having problems that day. So apparently he had viewed the Unsolved Mysteries himself Wednesday night.
Next, a young man's poignant search for the big brother who changed his life.
Isn't it a pretty day? Yeah. Gosh, the sky is so blue. I don't see
In 1969, when Jeff Fisher was 5 years old, his father left home, forcing Jeff's mother to raise her young son and daughter alone.
What's the matter? I want to go in there with you. Why not? There's only guys in there, and you're not a guy. Well, honey, that shouldn't make any difference. I'm not a guy. I want to go in there with my dad.
Honey, I know you'd like to be in there with Daddy, okay? But Daddy's going to be gone for a little while.
It was very hard on Jeff after his dad left because he had been very close to him, and suddenly he was gone, and Jeff went through the feelings that a lot of children have, that maybe this was my fault. Maybe I said something, maybe I did something that made my dad leave. Jeff was a very sensitive, shy little boy, so things like that bothered him a lot.
I would always ask my mom, where's Daddy? Where's Daddy? And she'd say, oh, he's gone away, and, I don't know when he's going to be back. And, and it was just the fact that he just wasn't there anymore. And, I just felt a real loss, because I had been so close to him, and he just wasn't there anymore.
2 years after his father left, Jeff Fisher met a man who profoundly changed his life. A man he's not seen or heard from in more than 20 years. Jeff is one of the thousands of boys whose lives have been enriched by Big Brothers of America, an organization that provides young boys with strong adult male role models. In 1971, Big Brothers of America opened a chapter in Jeff's hometown of Elkhart, Indiana. Jeff was her first little brother.
So what kind of sports do you like to play?
His big brother was John Novotny, a local salesman and father of a 2-year-old daughter.
It is.
He was a big guy. He was over 6 feet, jet black hair.
When's the last time you played?
Just a really solidly built guy, a very commanding type of guy. But really easy to get along with.
You ever put a tent up before?
No.
You're about to learn.
Over the next 10 months, Jeff and John spent many weekends together.
Okay, now then we want to unfold it.
John gave me the companionship that I really needed at that time. He would take me out and do things, that Mom wasn't able to either afford to take us to do, or just didn't have the time because she was working so much. Just the fact that this was, an older guy that I could hang around with and not have him tell me to go away and, come back later and stuff. A guy that wanted to spend some time with me, you know, made me feel really good.
That looks pretty good. Think it's ready to light?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll give it a spin. Here we go.
After Jeff and John started seeing each other, I noticed that Jeff had a lot more confidence in himself. And he was very proud of the fact that he had a big brother. And he would tell the other kids, well, John and I are going to go do this, or my big brother and I are going to go do this. He was very proud of the fact that he had a man in his life that was just his, that just belonged to Jeff.
A year and a half after they met, John's company transferred him to another state. Jeff and John were no longer able to spend time together, but they did stay in touch. In September of 1972, Jeff underwent open heart surgery to correct a congenital defect. It was a terrifying experience, but a phone call from John, who himself suffered heart problems, helped to ease Jeff's fears.
Yeah? It's real neat. I got this bed that moves up and down sideways.
I think it helped Jeff to see that John was this big, strong guy, and he had a bad heart. And so if John can be big and strong, then maybe this heart condition isn't the end of the world. And I think that was a big help to Jeff.
Jeff never heard from John again, but feels that John's support and understanding were a key to his complete recovery. Jeff went on to graduate from high school. He now works in the construction field and has a family of his own.
Why don't you toss it out there and tell me a story about it?
He just introduced me to a world that I had never seen before that was, you know, really beautiful and really just so different from what I was used to.
How do you like
And if I
school?
finally see him again, I just want to thank him.
It is.
I just want to say, God, John, thank you, because you just, you know, I still think about you. He made a lasting impression. It's been 20 years, and he's still a really vivid part of my memory.
Thanks to our viewers, Jeff Fisher's search for his big brother ended the night of our broadcast. 9 days later, Jeff and his mother traveled to John Novotny's home in Tacoma, Washington for an emotional reunion.
There they are. There they are. Hi, guys.
Yeah, it's nice to meet you.
Yeah, you look just like your picture, man. Great, great.
It's unbelievable. I was absolutely stunned. I had absolutely no idea that Jeff was looking for me. And then as the show aired, people from Elkhart and from Michigan started calling me on the phone, telling me that I was on television and that Jeff Fisher was looking for me. And we must have got 35 calls that night and at least that many the next night.
You know, I've been wanting to say thanks to this guy for 18 years, and, you know, whatever it took to come out and say that, you know, I was willing to do. This is when we were down in Lexington, Kentucky for a John Mellencamp show.
When I first started being a big brother, the question was, would I really have enough time to do it right? And then 20 years later, to find out that I really did make a difference, I mean, it brings the whole thing to reality.
On our next Unsolved Mysteries, in the spirit of Halloween, we will explore the St. James Hotel in New Mexico. 100 years ago, the St. James was a way station for such legendary guests as Bat Masterson, Wyatt Earp, and Jesse James. Today, the old hotel is known less for its guests than for its ghosts. In 1975, John Hardin was brutally murdered in his own backyard. 16 years later, the current residents of Hardin's old house are convinced it is haunted by his spirit seeking justice, and incredibly, the haunting has spurred authorities to reopen the murder investigation. Join me for this intriguing Halloween edition of Unsolved Mysteries.